Okay, so we're running a little bit later than I anticipated. Hopefully, our stream is starting. You see anything?
Oh, is this the old one, not the new one?
No. If somebody can hear us and see us, do me a favor, let us know in the chat.
Oh, it's running an ad now.
Okay. Skip ad. Okay, so now I have the bugs sorted out, and we are working. And welcome to tonight's live stream. This is Ken and Cheryl live from the Carnival Horizon, and she's Cheryl.
That's Ken.
And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about our cruise. We're on the last port day. We were in Amber Cove today. Tomorrow's a sea day, and then Sunday's get off the ship day. Tomorrow night's going to be the saddest night of the cruise because you see all those suitcases lined up in the hall, and everybody knows that they're going to have to get off, except those that are staying on for a back-to-back. I think to start with, and do me a favor, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I know Pam is here. We had this because of we had some issues with the way I had to set the stream up, so we can't see your questions. I can't post them on the screen, but Cheryl's watching her phone to get the questions. So if you have some, please put them in, and also let us know where you're watching from. We always like to know where everybody's joining us from. This cruise was a postponed cruise from a year ago. I got everything set up. We got 10 people going, and then back in December, they broke an azopod, or an azopod wasn't working like it was supposed to, and they had to send the Horizon to dry dock. We're all sweating whether or not we're going to get the ship back. It got back in time, and I would say this, that being the first passengers on the ship after that had some really nice perks because we got on really early. They started doing check-ins at like 9 o'clock because there was nobody coming off the ship. So that worked really well. You get on the ship, and your cabin was already ready for you and open, which was really nice because you have a place to put down the stuff that you carried and start to explore. What do you think of embarkation, Cheryl?
Yeah, it went really quickly. It was real smooth. No problems.
All right. And, like I said, I have a habit now. I have two things I will eat for lunch when I get on the ship. Both of them were open. And there was a debate whether I was going to Blue Iguana or to Guy's Burgers. Guy's Burgers won because our friends were there. So we have 10 others with us on the cruise, so it's made for a lot of fun. This is probably our least work cruise and most fun cruise. Though I still shot a lot of video, did cabin tours and those kinds of things. One of the things, I guess that's actually, I'm just gonna make an observation. My opinion, the best free hamburger at sea is Guy's Burger, and the best free Mexican food at sea is the Blue Iguana. And so if you're a fan of burgers or you're a fan of Mexican food, you definitely want to check out those two locations on the ship. We have been on this since they started resuming cruising in July out of the Bahamas. We've been on the Adventure of the Seas. We've been on the Carnival Sunrise. We've been on a Celebrity Summit. We've been on the Meraviglia, which is MSC. We've been on the MSC Seashore. We did the Princess, Emerald Princess, and we've been on Symphony of the Seas. And without a doubt, Guy's Burgers and Blue Iguana win their categories for free. Now, there's some other places you can get better burgers, maybe, but they're high dollar burgers. They're not free. So make that comment. That's just my plug for those two establishments. First, we started off. We had a couple of sea days. I thought things went well. We've had the service in the dining room. I thought has been very good. I won't say it's the best dining room service we've ever had, I think that there may have been some crew replacements happened in this time frame, so that this crew is maybe settling in a little bit. There's just things haven't gone quite as perfectly as I'm used to, but I thought the service was good. What do you think?
Oh, the dining room service is great. Yeah, it's fine.
And the food in the main dining room has been, I thought, very good. It was interesting. We had some friends that had fillets that weren't as good as they could have. In my opinion, they could have gone and should have asked for another one because they were a little tough. I had the strip tonight. It was great. The first sea day was steak and lobster. So we sailed on Saturday. So Sunday was the first sea day. That was steak and lobster. That was your first of your formal nights. We've eaten the first night we had dinner. We had a group dinner in Cucina del Capitano. That was great. As you can see, just looking at what you see in the screen, our room is an accessible handicap cabin. We have a scooter and a wheelchair in here, and still have plenty of space, so they work really well. The one thing that is a little different, and I'll do cabin video tour or cabin tour videos about the ship, but the cabinet or the closet is set up so that the
Sorry, my phone's gonna die.
oh no, she needed a cable. She's gonna take care of finding it. We're watching the chat on her phone, and it wants to quit for the night. Okay. Sorry
about that.
Well, the joys of a live show, you have technical issues that you have to resolve. Okay, so I guess I'm watching the.
So my anyway, my little scooter is called, I think it's a C1 maybe. Anyway, you turn around inside the small elevators on the ship. The elevators on the ship, most of them are fairly shallow. I did notice there's a few longer ones, which I guess they use for moving certain carts and luggage, and that wouldn't be a problem anyway. But the shallower ones, I can spin right around in there. It's pretty neat. It's got 4 speeds on it, as well as the reverse, and it has a little tray underneath that holds holds personal things. And the back has a plate that's has the edge on it, and we're able to hang things on that too. So it's actually very convenient. The arms can go up and down, although I didn't bother raising them, and they do lift out of the way if you need to slide off the scooter. So it has a little it has a tray for your feet that folds down when you need it, so then when you're eating you can lift it up and maybe I like to do that when I'm eating and scoot up closer to the table.
Yeah, and this was provided free by Scootaround. Okay, so just get that disclosure out. But the fact that we got this free in no way is affecting our comments and view of it. I am of the opinion now that if you need a scooter, want a scooter, that this is the device I would choose. It works really well.
There's no front to it at all. So it just has a hand control over here on the arm. So there's nothing in your way. You can just pull right up to a table to eat. And then, but the best thing is it's several inches narrower than any other scooter I've seen for the most part. Not that I've ever actually measured them, but I can go next to the carts in the hall, most of the cleaning carts, and the vacuums, I can go right by them. There's only one cart. Sometimes if they put a lot of linen on one particular cart, if the linen's hanging out, then I have a little trouble. Other than that, I can go all the way down. And I put on a camera on my forehead the other day and took a video of going down the hall, and that'll be posted in a couple of weeks. So
yeah, but this thing it amazes me, and I'm pretty sure Shell's been airborne a couple of times on it because she likes to go really fast with it. But she is very nimble, and it's worked well on any kind of surface. It'll do small curbs. It won't do a full curb. We have video of us trying to see what we can make it go over. It'll do grass, it'll do gravel. The only thing that you can't do with it is sand. But it is, I think, just the niftiest thing ever. I know all of the people that I make recommendations to, I'm going to recommend this as a choice. It's no more expensive from Scooter Round than any other, but it is just so much easier. It's easier for Cheryl to get in and out of.
I think you could be tempted to try to go up something that would be too steep for it, because then I have my other scooter has directions like don't take a certain incline because it can tip, and this has anti-tip on the back, which will stop you from going up too fast. Because they had a little area at Amber Cove today, like a little sign I would have liked to have sat right under, but it had like a foot up on this ramp, and I think if you tried to take it and it didn't have the anti-tip, you'd probably fall on your back. But you'd be, after you use this for a while, you might be tempted to go somewhere you shouldn't, because it's really easy to use.
Yeah. So I was going to make that our last bit, but this thing has been incredible. Let's see, we got chat. Yeah, no, just me and Cheryl. So let's talk about ports. This was a new itinerary for us. Cheryl and I have done Cozumel, Costa Maya, all of those places so many times that that we know the towns like a local. But this was something new. We did Aruba, Bonaire, La Romana, and today was Amber Cove. And so we'll start with Aruba. I thought Aruba was a beautiful island. The one thing that, if you haven't been, Aruba and Bonaire are both very much desert islands. It's full of cactus. I mean, it looks like Arizona, with maybe a little more scrub brush, not mesquite, but a different kind of brush that grows there. But the water was incredible. It was just stunningly beautiful. We did full island tours on Aruba. The tour we took, I would say it is semi-accessible, because we had Cheryl and another friend. The other friend had her walker. Cheryl, we took her fold-up wheelchair, and they were able to put it in the back of the bus behind where we were sitting. But Cheryl and our friend both had to deal with a couple of steps on and off the bus. But
it wasn't and there weren't rear doors on this particular bus, so the bus driver picked him up and carried him down and put him in the very back of the bus, which limited how many people you could get on the bus too.
Yeah. Now, we did arrange on our own private tours, and I like that because just because of the way COVID's the contagion factor of it, we felt really comfortable just being ourselves on the tour. So I would say that. But we saw basically the whole island of Aruba, and from the north tip to the south tip. I climbed the lighthouse, and then we stopped at it. And do you remember the name of the rock formation?
Not right now.
Well, it'll be in the video, but we stopped at a rock formation. I climbed the rock formation, and as a result, now my knees are pretty sure that they don't want to work anymore. The lighthouse was about 90 feet, and the rock formation was probably 50 or so feet up, and it was just, like I said, by the time I went up and down both of those that day, I have been, my knees have been griping nonstop since then. But I'm going to go back to Aruba in 2 weeks. We'll be there for a couple of days, so I want to get to see a little more of it. I want to do spend a little time in the water. We didn't get any water time in Aruba. The beach that we saw that we liked best was Baby Beach, which is at the far south end of the island. But there is a beach that's fairly close to the cruise port. You could, if you're in reasonable health, you could walk down, come out of the port, go right, and there's a beach down a ways that there were people at. And like I said, it's within walking distance of the cruise port. I thought on both Aruba and Bonaire, I thought I felt safe. Yeah. We had some friends with us that are, our age. I would say older, but they're our age. That makes us older. So, but they went out at night shopping by themselves out in the port area and outside the port area, and again, they felt comfortable with it. Aruba, we were there till I think 9:30 or 10 o'clock. We were pretty late. Was the schedule in Aruba, and we got done with our tour and we were pretty tired, so we stayed back on the ship. But I would encourage to explore Aruba. I think it's worth exploring. Like I said, there's a lot of great beaches. I know a lot of my listeners are not going to be up to snorkeling and doing some of those things, but it is a beautiful place to go and to visit. Now, for those that are that have mobility challenges, when we're on Aruba next time, I have somebody that has an accessible vehicle. We're going to spend a little time with them and see some different sites, and just so that we can get a feel for how it is working with their company and their transportation. We're also going to do a hotel tour while we're here.
On Bonaire, we did have a fully accessible van. It was a very, very nice tour. It just lifted me and the scooter right up, and then I just rolled onto the van. They do have the ties for wheelchairs, but with this scooter, the way it's designed, when you turn it off, it just kind of locks, and it was just fine just sitting in the van. And they don't drive particularly fast. The roads are a little bumpy, and I will say, if you have problems with bumps in roads, then they were going slow and it was still bumpy. So that might be something that you might think about whether you really want to do that or not. Because I have back problems, but a few bumps don't really bother me. They'd have to be really bad bumps. And but the driver that we had, and we also had a tour guide with him, I guess, to mostly so we could understand the English. But he includes a lot of things about the nature and the history of the island. It was a wonderful tour. He would stop. He would have the driver stop, and he would go out and clip something off of a tree or a bush, and then come back and explain to us what it was and whether you could eat it or not, and what kind of animals eat it. And then he would point out a lot of the wildlife, several types of birds. Of course, we saw lizards, donkeys, goats. And there's a lot of things that we would have just missed if we had just rented a car and just drove ourselves around. We would have seen the beautiful beaches. We would have seen the buildings, the lighthouses, things like that. But we would have totally have missed most of the history and the wildlife if we hadn't had a guide.
Yeah, I said we saw there was a bird of prey. I think they said that this one eats lizards. Looked like kind of like a hawk, and it was sitting right on top of a cactus, fairly high up in the air, looking around. And like I said, most people would drive right by it and not see it.
Oh, we saw a beehive attached to the side of a cliff, and he knew to watch for that. And I mean, it was just right there outside the window of the van. We got a picture of it, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I was going to say we learned a little bit about the history of Bonaire. We went into a village that was one of the only original villages that were built by in the 1500s that had survived to the modern time, because it is surrounded by hills, and so when the slave traders and pirates came, this village was out of sight, so they didn't know it existed. But it was a village that was originally set up for the families of the slaves that worked in the salt mines. And they showed us the well that they would go to, and then we drove the route they would have walked, but it wasn't paved back then.
It was over a mile. The women had to walk over a mile every day of the year to get water. It doesn't rain there, I think, only about 20 inches a year. So they had to collect water every day. But the descendants of those slave families still live there.
Yeah, but it was like I said, so it was a very interesting tour. We went down and saw the salt flats where they flood with salt water and let the water evaporate out, and then harvest the salt. And he gave us some sample salt crystals.
It goes to Cargill, he said, and it's a lot of it. I mean, tons. It's amazing.
Yeah, they use huge equipment. They were working the day we were there. Yeah, and again, video coming on that. We saw the.
And I was surprised at how many, because we've seen some salt flats on other islands, But these were just so many. It was like just one after another of these pools of water, and so it's a huge operation.
Yeah. Yeah, they had huge piles of salt, and they have a conveyor belt that actually pumps it offshore onto the ships. We saw that. We saw the slave huts, and it was, I guess, kind of a sad, strange fact that at the south end of the island, they had these slave huts that the slaves only used for about 13 years before they abolished slavery. But about 200 years before they built the slave huts, they just had to do with whatever makeshift shelter they could build for themselves because they used the men to harvest the salt and load it onto the ships that would come up. But I will say this: if you want beautiful water and beautiful beaches, Aruba's great, Bonaire's better. If you're into doing any kind of water sports activity, I would put Bonaire probably at the top of my list. We thought and Grand Turk was great when we were there, and Grand Turk and Bonaire, I'd say, are very similar, but the advantage of Bonaire is there's coral and sea turtles and stuff right up on the shore. They were people. My eyes weren't good enough to see it, but there were people watching a sea turtle feeding right at the bottom of an overlook. And it's funny, they call it 1,000 steps. It's really only, I think, 89 steps
70,
down.
70.
So 70 steps down. I guess it feels like 1,000 back up if you're carrying your scuba gear. But
oh yes, Bonaire is very, very big for scuba divers. They had a lot of places where where it was already preset where you could park there for scuba diving, and then like little paths out to the water. And these are like just constantly along that western shore. And then at the far northern part of that, though it's conservation area, it's labeled very clearly. You really couldn't miss that you're not supposed to scuba dive, swim, snorkel, anything on the far northern part. And so that's good because they're letting the reefs stay the same there. And that's how they're trying to rebuild the reefs in other parts of the island. And they showed us a picture of this structure they put out there in the water for the reefs to rebuild on. And so what they use the untouched area to compare to how quickly it grows to the other areas. So it's important not to go up there.
Yeah, but I said, if I had to say there was a focus on Bonaire, it would be water and water sports. There's a little island that there's a water taxi will take you out to, and it's called Klein Bonaire or Little Bonaire, and it's just a little flat, basically almost a sandbar. But he was talking about again that the scuba and snorkel was great out there, and one of the things that is interesting is that you literally from the shore can go snorkeling and scuba diving and fairly quickly be in a couple 100 feet of water, because you would see that it would go out maybe 50 or 100 feet and all of a sudden it go from white to dark blue. He said the dark blue is a couple 100 feet deep because there's the edge where it drops off on this reef wall. And he said it's just full of fish and you can go out there. The whole area around Bonaire is a marine preserve. So we really, I would say we loved Bonaire.
If you don't want to have to work too hard at your swimming, you can take a water taxi to Little Bonaire, and it drops off on one end. You walk halfway across the island, the lengthwise, go to the edge. I think it was the north edge, and you get off in the water, and it'll just kind of like pull you around to back to where you got off the boat, and then you can just get up and walk around. And you kind of, they said people just go around in a circle like that. It's like this snorkeling with almost no effort. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and so our next port was La Romana, and when you get to the Dominican Republic, things are different than they were in Aruba and Bonaire. La Romana is, I would say, a rough town. I guess this really puts it in perspective. They have a little train ride around the downtown area that we took. It's cheap, and you get what you pay for, or maybe a little less. I wasn't that impressed with it. They give you a little bit of history, And it's funny because they have a recorded female voice that's telling you, but sometimes the tram is at a different spot than what she's talking about. And a guy getting on and off pointing at the buildings as you go. If I had to do it again, I would not do it. But that was the only inexpensive excursion, and we did want to see a little bit of La Romana. So another one of my friends, he and I went. The wives went back to the ship. They were like, "Nah, it didn't sound like fun." And this really puts it in perspective, is that we had an armed police guard on motorcycles accompanying us for the whole trip. And when you have to have police with guns, riding alongside the tram, that tells me that it's not as safe as it could be in that area. Now, some people were out there walking around doing things, and they may have not had any issues. I can't say, but just in general, I did not see anything in La Romana or in the port. The port area was nice. The port area, they had a band, and there was pretty good shopping, some nice artwork and stuff if you're into collecting things. So the port area was fine, but outside of the gates, I would be very careful. There are a lot of ships excursions. None of them are particularly inexpensive, and none of them are particularly accessible, so we didn't do anything there. And then our final port was where we.
I wanted to mention with the train. They said that we could get on, but they couldn't take the scooters either, and that we could have just left them at the gate there. But since these were rented scooters and this one's like brand new, I just didn't feel comfortable, and so I thought I'll just go back. I had already shopped quite a bit that day.
Yeah. And in La Romana, I'll say this: the dock is really close to the port area, so that's a short, easy walk.
It's uphill a little ways.
Yeah.
So you have to, if you're really, so the scooter it was easy for the scooter. If you have like heart issues or something, then you might want to have a scooter or take your time going up the hill.
Yeah, but it was really close. Like I said, the shopping area they had a lot of shops.
Food, bars.
Yeah, it's typical port area, but the paving was good. It was accessible toilets. So that port area was really easy.
Shops were accessible fully.
Yeah, all the shops were accessible. In fact, the same thing in Bonaire and in Aruba, that the port area was really very accessible. Wasn't a challenge anywhere.
We bought some chocolate.
Yeah,
we bought some powdered chocolate, organic powdered chocolate.
Yeah. Today was Amber Cove, and I'll say this about Amber Cove. One of the things that makes it interesting, I think it is the best if you want to do anything in the pool. Handy because they have 2 lifts that'll take a wheelchair, lift you from a wheelchair and let you get into the water. Now the water is about, in most cases, probably 4 foot deep. Some of it's shallower than that. The pools are 0 step entry. They're ramped, at least on the one end where we went in. So from that perspective, they're really pretty nice. But this is the first pool that we've seen in a port area that other than on the Coco Cay, that had pool lifts, and they had 2 of them. So you could,
the one lift I noticed was on wheels.
Actually, both of them.
Yeah, so they can move them about wherever you might want to get into the water. So it was nice. And Ken helped me walk down into the water, and I was able. It has a little lazy river. There's kind of like two pools that are connected by 2 lazy rivers, and it's pretty long. They have like the wooden bridges, walking paths, like over 3 spots on it. That's how big they are. Those aren't close. So I don't know, it might take me 15, 20 minutes to lazily kind of swim on my back around there. And they have some seating areas built in where you can sit along several different edges. So it was very nice. And it wasn't, of course the ship's not nearly full at all, so it wasn't crowded at all.
Yeah, there is a sky bar. I didn't go up. Like I said, my knees were complaining, but we had a friend that did. I'll get pictures and we'll put that out for you. But this was, like I said, maybe for a port area, just a port area. I'd say this might be my favorite. It's not large. It's easy to get around.
A lot of shopping, different places to sit and eat. Some shaded areas to eat. Some just where you just buy like a hot dog or a cart.
You can get Nathan's hot dogs.
Yeah.
But all in all, like I said, we've enjoyed this itinerary. The only spot that, like I said, that I felt uncomfortable, and I used to work in Juarez. I don't mind going anywhere in Mexico, but this was, like I said, less than La Romana was just one of those places I didn't feel comfortable about as a place to visit.
We had two of our party went and did 4-wheel drive vehicles today. It's signed up for ATVs, but they turned to be 4-wheel drive vehicles. And they said they felt perfectly safe on this side of the island, a totally different. And he had been on the little train with Ken at La Romana. They said a totally different feel. Everyone was very friendly, and the ATV trip was supposed to be 4 hours. It was 5 because the traffic to get to the ATVs was what took so long. They took a bus over to the ATVs, and then they went through the countryside pretty much mostly, and they stopped for coffee at a local's house so they could see how they live and what their utensils are they use in the kitchens, different things like that. And then they went and ate at a local restaurant, and they really enjoyed that. And then they went back, and they said there was a lot of potholes and a lot of splashing, and they had to get in showers as soon as they got back, but that they totally loved the trip.
Yeah, like I said, we just went to the port and spent our time there. But I like this. Other than La Romana, I love the itinerary. Like I said, Aruba and Bonaire are amazing. And I said everything on the ship has been really good. The ship's in great shape. Like I said, there's maybe a little bit of lack of synchronization on some of the dining rooms, and I think, like I said, it's just maybe they swapped out crew for the cruise. But other than that, everything else has been great. Like I said, we've eaten in Cucina del Capitano. We ate at Gigi's. We also ate the Mongolian barbecue I had that for lunch today at Gigi's.
I had the pasta lunch.
Yeah, and she had Mongolian for lunch today. We've eaten at the guys Pig and Anchor for lunch. So everything we've pretty much. So what
we did the Mexican Blue Lagoon.
We've eaten at Blue Lagoon several times. They have street tacos that are to die for. So that's kind of my go-to. Once in a while, I'll do a burrito. They're good too. Think of Chipotle's, and that's kind of what you have with Blue Iguana.
And I like the flour shell salads. The flour shell.
Yeah, they have
taco
salads. Yeah,
that was really good.
We haven't eaten at some of the specialty restaurants. I did hear a report from people that the service was pretty slow in the steakhouse Fahrenheit 555.
But the food was worth the wait.
Yeah, but it said it took 2.5 hours to eat. The one thing I would say is that the shows in the main theater have been a little bit.
We missed the one with the dancing. We missed the one Thursday night. We had something else going on personally, and so we missed it. And that got rave reviews. Was dancing, music, and singing. The other ones have been more like a comedian,
magician,
and a magician. The like is what we saw.
Yeah.
But then they were fine. But when we haven't seen a dancing show now on a couple cruises. So I'm really sorry we missed the one on Thursday night.
Yeah, it's just been interesting that since we were on the Meraviglia, that was the last one we had that had show with dancers on it. And I don't know the reason, but it's the magician was okay. They had a guy that was off of Broadway, and he had actually played in General Hospital, and Chuck Wagner.
He was excellent show. It was very nice.
Yeah, he did a great job. It was just Chuck Wagner on the stage, but he was very engaging, and he is a tremendous singer. He was been a Broadway star, and then just a bunch of he was like I said, a very, very talented individual.
He told a story through
as
he went, so it was very good.
Yeah, talked about how he met Andy Griffith the first time, and he talked about some of the other people that he'd met along the way. But in general, we've had a great cruise. I haven't seen any questions. I am okay. Oh, that was me posting questions. Anybody, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, please, because I want to try to answer it. One of the things on this ship that's a little different that takes getting used to is you get in the elevators. The elevators are small. 5 or 6 people. You're going to be pretty full in the elevator, and there are no buttons other than open the door, close the door buttons in the elevator. And we saw this for the first time on, I guess it was on the seashore.
Seashore. Oh, yeah, seashore.
The MSC on the seashore had the same kind of system, but there's a kiosk outside and you touch the screen and it'll light up. You tell what floor you want, and you're supposed to tell it for so there's 3 of you. You tell it 3 times that you're going to whatever floor. So if you're going, like we're on floor 8, you're going to 8. You do it 3 times for 3 passengers. And then when you get in, the door shuts and you'll go up to the floor you want. Now, you sometimes will get passengers that are, that may be passengers from a couple of different floors going up, but I don't think we ever had passengers come on the car until we got to our destination, did we?
Rarely. It's been, you pretty much almost always go direct. Of course, the ship isn't full, but it's much faster this way because what happens is you're not stopping at every floor because somebody else wants to go up or down or whatever, and it just has to stop. And nobody, it's not like, well, it's so crowded that you can't get to your elevator because they don't know where the elevator is going. They're not going to jump on an elevator when it opens because they don't know where it's going unless they heard, unless they saw you type in your floor. So it's never which is nice because I know sometimes in a wheelchair it's hard to get your door done, and this way you don't have to worry about getting too full. When you put your floor in and you go straight and you wait outside that elevator door, then you're going to get in for your ride probably, unless occasionally once or twice it's been full and we had to wait. But that's usually when it's you're right at the port and everybody wants to get off at the same time. Other than that, I haven't had to wait at all. I really like it much better than the old way.
Yeah. For those that haven't been on this ship, the aft elevator serves the bigger of the 2 dining rooms. It also serves the buffet, and it goes up to deck 11. I forget what it was. Gigi's and Cucina del Capitano are on the aft elevator.
And there's no signage up, but Gigi's is also the Mongolian Wok for lunch, and Cucina del Capitano is also the Pasto restaurant for lunch. But there's no signs up, although the way it's in your app and the way it's listed on the papers, you would think it's a separate place, but it's the same thing.
Yeah. And I would say this, that I thought Gigi's for lunch was good. We had the menu for dinner. We ate there for dinner. The food was good. It's just, it's kind of an eclectic collection of dishes. Is the best way I could describe it.
Then the other thing, if you have a wheelchair, the only other issues we've had this trip is if you want to get up on the 11th floor, you have to do it at one end. I forget which one end it is. It's this end, the rear end. Yeah. The front end, you get up to 11 on the elevator and you head out toward the deck, and there's 12. 2 steps there.
It's 12, not 11.
I think it's 11 because I wasn't going to 12. I haven't been going to 12 and I got stuck the other day.
Okay. Well, anyway.
I think it's 11. And when I was on 11, I went around and took. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 11. But anyway, just be aware that if you want to go up high, you need to be in the rear probably, unless you're going up past 11 and 12. Then you can. Yeah.
They do have an accessible route, and if you push the button for accessible, it gives you a different announcement for the car. The car bings or something when it stops.
The elevator will make a noise repeatedly, so you can, without seeing the elevator, you can get close to it and know which elevator is yours. I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
I didn't do the pedaling thing. This has the pedal like
Skyraider. So for those of you that are plus size men like me, when you go to weigh in to try to get on the Skyraider, you might keep 1 foot on the ground because they have a red light, green light, and my friend and I, we both got red light, which meant we couldn't go. I'm going to try to get some footage from it because it looks like it'd be a lot of fun.
I think I might try to, even though I don't like heights because it's not really that high. It's really only about 2 stories up. So
yeah,
I might try it. I'm just, the only thing that has me worried, it's actually pretty long, and I'm not sure I'm not going to get tired and somebody's going to be wanting to come up behind me and I'm not moving for a little bit, but it does look like fun.
Yeah. But they do also have an aerial walk. I think I can try to get on that tomorrow. We'll see to sea day, so it's time to see the places we haven't seen. The casino is no smoking because I know that's always a question for people. So it's no smoking in the casino, which is
And always don't smoke on your balcony. It could blow it into another room and someone left the door open and start a fire.
Yeah,
fires are the worst thing that could ever happen to a cruise ship. So.
Yeah, but trying to think. Like I said, we haven't had any glitches. I thought the staff, everybody goes out of their way to say hi, to say thank you, to be as helpful. I mean, it's typical, great Carnival service. We have not had any glitches. One thing that is different this time, well, actually, a couple more things I'll say. First of all, the cabin stewards are only going to make up your cabin once a day, which we're fine with that. Twice a day was overkill in our book. But to try to reduce, exposure and traffic and give them.
And they have more time to clean.
Yeah.
When they are in your cabin.
Yeah. So that is a change. The other thing I would say is that other than masks, it's back to a normal cruise. This is the cruise we've been on where you go in the buffet, and it's interesting. There hasn't been a washy lady or guy.
You can get your own food.
But you get your own food, other than a couple of things they've served, like cakes. Pretty much you go in and you get tongs and you get your fruit, you get whatever it is you want. So the buffet to me is much more like it used to be, and I'm okay with that. I wasn't uncomfortable with it. So that is something that has changed. The same usual, interesting shows in the dining room. Dining room service, I didn't see anything that was different. So it's this cruise probably, other than masks, feels more like a normal cruise, except the ship's half empty.
Yeah, maybe we're going to talk about COVID on the ship.
Oh, so the last thing we'll talk about is what happens if you get COVID on the ship.
Or what happened this week. I know protocols keep changing all the time.
And we have a great deal of experience with this because one of our traveling party was not feeling good on Sunday morning. No, it must have been Monday morning. Wasn't feeling good Monday morning. So, cough and fever. And so
she self-tested. She brought an extra test for herself.
Self-tested positive, called the medical center. They put her in quarantine. She's been in quarantine ever since. They bring a regular
test. They did a PCR test.
Yeah, to make sure.
And they also did a test on her roommate. Her roommate was negative, and so her roommate
had to go into isolation for 1 day, and then they tested her again on the second day, and she was negative. So she went back to full normal activities, just wear a mask. The friend of ours that had COVID has been down on deck 1 since Monday.
And she had like no symptoms after about 30 hours.
Yeah, they gave her some medicine, but anyway, so they're keeping her in quarantine. She does not know exactly what her situation will be until we get some clarification from the Port of Miami. They're hoping for information tomorrow. So, it didn't have an impact on anybody other than the passenger that tested positive. Now, obviously, if her roommate had tested positive, then she'd be in quarantine, and then they probably would have expanded. But they didn't even test the rest of the group. We all had dinner together Sunday night, and they didn't test the rest
Saturday
of
night. Saturday night.
Saturday night, yeah.
Yeah, and went right out of my head what I was going to say. Oh, I was concerned because I thought she's going to get really bored. She hasn't had, after the first day, she felt good already. So she's been in there in this room for 5 days. So I went to the gift shop to see what they had. They had like a deck of cards. It was like the only thing I thought there'd be like a real activity type thing. So I asked her if she wanted a deck of cards or if she'd like my used crossword puzzle book, which I had hardly used at all. I just bought it in the airport recently. So she said she'd take the crossword puzzle book, and she said it's been a lifesaver. So if you do plan on taking a cruise, just in case you don't want to be too bored, you might take a deck of cards or a tablet or something. And I believe they gave her Wi-Fi to use while she's down there.
She may have purchased Wi-Fi. Anyway, she does have Wi-Fi. So, and just those are the things that we can share about that. Like I said, the worst thing for her and her family, because she's traveling with her son and daughter-in-law, is that they're all on the same flight going back to their destination on Sunday morning, or Sunday about noon, I guess. And the question, of course, is what are they going to do with her when they get to Miami? And we still don't have answers from that. But it's not the cruise ship that is holding up the answer. It is the Port of Miami. And so next week on the live show, we'll be back home, be in the normal studio. We'll be there for a couple of weeks, and then we're back on a ship.
Oh, the other thing is when you're getting off on this ship, on these ports, the gangplank is on 0, and so, but they don't. 0 doesn't show up on the elevators. They because with these new elevators, they can shut off certain floors, so that way people aren't running. They don't want people running down to 0 by mistake all the time. So of course that's where the medical center is too. So they have you go down to 1, and then from 1 you take stairs down to 0 that are close to right there at the gangplank. And if you're handicapped, they have a certain elevator, and then they'll control one elevator, and they take handicap one at a time down to 0. But the other day they almost took us to the medical center when we said we wanted to go to 0. So that's the problem when you're handicapped, is that they take one look and you think, oh, sick. But so just be sure to say we want to go to the port, help us get to 0.
Yeah, and the elevator is the midship elevator. The forward elevator goes to the medical center. Midship on this ship goes down to the gangplank so that you can get on and off. So just one of those things to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think things are getting more back to normal now, and it feels good, and I think for the most part everybody's been healthy. I've only seen like 1 or 2 other people heading to the medical center with a suitcase this trip.
Yeah. So, and we haven't been denied. We haven't had any problems at any of the ports, which again tells you that things are running better. For next week's show, we'll be back in the home office. We'll be talking about a little more about this cruise and how the COVID turned out. We'll share that with everybody. The other thing for next week that it'll be interesting is we're going to be planning our trip to Barbados, because we fly middle of February. We're going to Barbados. We get to Barbados. We're going to fly in the same day, which I hate, but we get in early and the ship leaves late. So we'll talk about that trip. That trip goes to Grenada, goes to Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. So Curacao and Grenada are new destinations, and that'll be on the Royal Caribbean Grandeur of the Seas. So we'll have another ship to talk about. And we also are going to follow that up by 5 days at an all-inclusive resort on Barbados. So we will have a lot of Barbados information for anybody that's interested. Again, we'll be live next week, 9 o'clock Eastern, and we'll see everybody then.
Bye.